the next assignment is the noise gate. Now, what is the noise gate? Noise gate, just like the name implies, is that they're the noise gate, just like the name implies, is it's gating the audio. It's going to allow certain parts of audio to pass through and other parts of the audio to not pass through. We are basically gating on and off the actual signal path so that the audio will only be the audio we want to hear. Just like on the other ones, you'll download the logic session and the instructions. Here again, that grading checklist definitely going to help you. Let me open up this graphic to show you what I kind of mean. So here is a snare track. Now, when recorded, a snare track, of course, a live drummer will actually have the snare, and he has other instruments around him. He has toms, he has a kick drum. He plays all these different instruments together as a whole drum kit. Well, since I have a microphone on the snare, of course it's also going to get some bleed. In other words, the sound from the other stuff around it as it's actually happening. But on that kick track, we may only want, that snare track, we only want the snares. We don't want all the other sounds on there. So you can see here, you see it's a snare and then a kick and some hi-hat stuff. So I think this is hi-hat, I think this is kick, and hi-hat, and snare again. Hi-hat, kick, hi-hat, if I recall. We don't want these guys. We only want the snares. So I want the audio to look like this, where it's just only the snares. Now, I either have to go in and edit every single thing out, which would drive you crazy, take a long time, or I can use a noise gate. And if, let's say, you're doing a live situation, well, there's no way I can edit live. I need something to control my snares. So that way, let's say I want to add a delay to the snare. In other words, you hear the snare hit and you hear da, 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 the other delays of the snare. Well, if I pump this audio through the delay unit, which we'll be talking about time-based effects later, we will get the snare and the hi-hat and the kick and everything, and it just turns into a mishmash of snare sounds with other sounds. So we want to have that track just gated to where only the snare sounds pass through. Let's show you what I mean, or let you hear what I'm actually talking about. Here's a snare track. You can see the snares, but there's also other stuff in there. If I zoom in, you could really get to see it. I'm going to right now just open up the gate. So here's the gate plugin. Right now I've got it bypassed. You can hear the kick. You could hear hi-hat. I could hear all kinds of stuff happening. I want this to be only a snare track. So I'm going to take a gate to clean that up. Now, how does a gate work? Well, very similar to a compressor. You'll notice we have threshold, our first setting. Next one is reduction. This is kind of like the ratio, but on this guy, we actually tell it in a number of dB how much we want the signal to be brought down that is not above the threshold, because the threshold basically sets when the gate will physically open. Right now, I have the gate set to minus 100 dB. Well, if I hit play, you're going to hear everything because signal is definitely above minus 100 dB. All right. Now, I've got the gain reduction to minus 100 dB. So as soon as I bring this, let's go ahead and bring this all the way over to the other side. It's still playing. Everything's being reduced to minus 100 dB, so we can't hear it. Yes, that track is still soloed, it's still playing, it's physically going through, but the gate is closed and it's not allowing any of the audio because the audio has never hit that threshold point. Kind of like what I was talking about earlier with the compressor. If you have the threshold set too high, the gate will never do its job. It doesn't know how to distinguish between what you want triggered to open up the gate. I'm going to kind of draw a line. Think of this. If I have the threshold set up here, the gate will never get triggered. But if I bring down the threshold, and now just the snares, because they're louder, will actually trigger the gate. So let's do that. I'm going to start bringing this guy back. Okay. So you're hearing it now. Open, open, open. You see how this is just quickly, I had stopped for a second, but it quickly just opened up as soon as that threshold got hit. But did you notice it closed also really quick because the attack of the snare only opened up the gate for a short time period, and then the threshold got crossed again, signal level went below that threshold, and the gate closed immediately. So very choppy. I don't want that. I want it to feel more natural. That's where I'm going to start using, you can see here we have attack again, we have release, and we have one more feature, hold. Let's, do I have, well, I have it in the instructions. I'm going to open up the instructions real quick. I'm going to show you a picture of what I'm kind of talking about. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There we go. All right. Okay, stop scrolling. No, come back here. I hate when that happens. Whenever I have go-to training and all these things open, sometimes just scrolling could be difficult. Come back. Come back. Oh, come on. Hey, it's still scrolling down. Stop. All right. I think I'm going to close this and reopen it just because that's becoming annoying. See, even closing it's taking a little too long. Oh my. All right. Here we go. Sorry about that. Let me just go through pages. This could be quicker. There we go. All right. Fourth page. You can see. So if our threshold is set right across here, our output level is off. Our gate is closed. As soon as the level crosses that threshold, you can see here's our input level in blue again, it will open the gate. If I have the attack set to 0, it will open it up immediately. But as soon as that level goes below the threshold, that gate would close immediately. Unless I have these parameters set up. So the attack is how long it fades the volume up to allow it to be at its full input level. All right, so the attack is in milliseconds, and how long it takes for the volume to come up to allow the audio to pass through. Then the hold basically says that, hey, once the threshold gets crossed again, why don't we hold that gate open for a little bit by whatever number of milliseconds you choose. Then we go ahead and close it. If I have the release time at 0, it would immediately close it. But let's say, okay, I've basically, the snare sound is played, and I have some decay on that snare sound. I don't want it to close so drastically that I cut the reverb off the tail of that snare sound. I want it to follow and bring down the level, kind of following the reverb tail. So this will give it to sound more natural. If I set up an attack, I'll hold and release, my snare sound won't be so glitchy. Well, let's come back to the Logic session. Hit play again. So you can see, bam, bam. I'm going to give it a little bit of attack just so I don't get that click in the audio. Now I'm going to go ahead and hold it open for a couple milliseconds. See, there's 60 milliseconds. But you notice the decay, the reverb tail, gets caught. It gets chopped off. So now I'm going to go ahead and add some release. Sounds a lot more natural. But also notice, hey, what happened to my the hi-hats? What happened to the kick drum? It's gone. So I've now gated the snare track to where I only get those snares to pass through. So you can see how useful this is. Now, if I put a time-based effect, I'm only affecting those snares the way I want to. Someone pointed out you could add reverb post gate. Yes, you could add reverb too to give it a different feel. But let's say we really like the natural sound of the reverb from the original recording. This would give you that capability of having the original sound natural and then added reverb to it. Versus we're going to get that choppiness still in our reverb. So we still want it to sound natural. So we always want to add a little bit of release to where it sounds natural, and then you can still add that reverb to give it whatever room or location of the snare to be located. So I want to emulate what a snare drum would sound like being recorded at Carnegie Hall. I can add a reverb to make it sound like Carnegie Hall, and I get a perfect sounding snare through the gate. Then it's reverb like Carnegie Hall. Versus it really choppy, and then the reverb's trying its best to, give it a little bit of a better feel, but you still have that choppiness in the original initial sound. So it wouldn't sound very natural. The reverb would definitely tell us like, oh, this sounds like something's been gated. So we want it to sound natural first, then you add the reverb. All right, let me hit stop. So hopefully you guys get to see how you could use a gate to physically get rid of all the other junk. You get rid of the noise, hence noise gate. Now, I always get asked as far as this hysteresis and look ahead. These are two features that only exist in DAWs. DAWs mean digital audio workstations, because how can you look ahead on a real-time signal coming into an actual physical gate? You can't. Only when it's been recorded down can this look ahead feature. What it does is it kind of looks ahead to know that it's going to allow the gate to react to the sound, the snare sound, without it being so choppy. Let's put that at 0. Put this as 0. You can see some of these snare hits are going to be a little clipping. You're going to get, the attacks are going to be ruined. There was one real bad one, that one right there. I think it was that one there, and there's a couple of them. So to fix that, you could either A, turn up the attack a little bit, and also the look ahead will help you, only in digital workstations. So let's bring that up. Add a millisecond of attack. You can see now it's actually able to get rid of those clicks that were happening. That one was just because I stopped. Whenever the audio signal is being turned on or off immediately in time and it doesn't fade it in, there 1 millisecond will help you enormously, and with the look ahead it helps you out quite a bit. The hysteresis is another function. Think of it as our threshold could be set to -7 dB. And then when the threshold gets crossed again, in other words, the signal is going below the threshold, that's when the gate closes. I could change that from being -7 once again to, I can add to it. So let's say 10. Make it an even 10. That means the threshold will get crossed as soon as the signal goes to -7, but it will not cross again until it hits -17. In other words, the gate will not close so quickly. This gives us almost a little bit more natural feel. Let me zoom out. So yes, the gate opened up right here, but it didn't close it right here. It actually went down to -17. So let's say gate basically goes all the way to this point where it starts closing, giving us an extra 10 dB of the threshold for the closing of the gate. That is what hysteresis is. The hysteresis is capable of being set on certain gates that are outboard pieces of gear, because this is not going forward in time. The look ahead does look ahead in time, where physically can't in real life. We can't have something guessing ahead of time when each snare is going to be hitting. This can actually look at the signal before it actually gets to its spot that it actually plays. So hopefully that explains those two as well. And there are other features a gate can do. You could actually set it up so the gate will only follow, or the circuitry that actually allows the audio to be gating the track itself on and off. It can actually be sent through a bandpass filter, for instance, so that only, let's say, the snare's frequencies will open up the gate. So useful, a little bit more advanced. You guys will start eventually getting into, being able to use these things like bandpass characteristics of the triggering of the gate, as well as also side chaining. I actually show you some tricks that you could do in this assignment using a gate, because I just showed you how you could actually gate a snare and make it nice and quiet. But let's go to a vocal. A vocal, we don't normally gate for a mix down, just because, hey, the person's already recorded, we don't have to worry about. But let's say, and I'm going to show you this. I did this on purpose. I recorded this vocal. We got where the vocalist was one of these vocalists that gasped a lot, in between words, gasping for breath.
Let your light shine for all to see. Start a fire.
So you hear those every single time, and I boosted them on purpose, just so you guys can mess around with this. But you can use a gate to gate that vocal, and I could remove all those breaths. But there's one problem that happens when I do that. Hit play.
Let your light shine for all to see. Start a fire in my soul, fan the flame and make it grow. So there's no doubt,
okay, there you see,
or denying. Let it burn so brightly.
I've gotten rid of
everyone around me.
I've gotten rid of all of those breaths. So I could gate them out, but have you listened to it? She almost sounds like a robot now. She's not breathing. The audience or the listener of your mix will sit there and go, that's weird. She sounds kind of strange. I'm not sure why. It's because subconsciously we know everybody breathes. And if there's no air for them to sing, how in the heck are they singing? So subconsciously, we feel like something's wrong. This is not normal. I don't like this. This person's not breathing. How the heck are they singing? So we don't want to reduce the signal by 100 dB. What I could do here is, this is why this is here, is I could use a gate and only reduce it by a certain number of dB. So when the gate closes, yes, it closes, but it still allows some of the audio to go through. Here I'm bringing it down 15 dB. hit play again.
Let your light shine, let your light shine for all to see. Start a fire in my soul, fan the flame and make it grow. So there's no doubt or denying. Let it.
You can now hear the breaths, but they're no way as loud. I have basically set it up so that way, let's see, where's the vocal? Every single time she breathes, the level gets brought down 13 dB. Whenever the level is above the threshold, the device then fully opens up to its full level. So we can actually clean up a vocal using a gate without having a 100% gain reduction. So the gate just kind of controls her breathing, the loudness of those breaths. Now, most of the time, almost always, we will actually have a gate at its maximum gain reduction. It is very rare that we actually change that. This is more of an effect that we could, and this is one great example of it, where you could control only certain parts. I could control how much gain reduction happens when the gate closes. Now, next thing, we actually have, again, quite a few examples for you. Then you're going to gate track 4 and gate track 5. So we're going to gate out noise from the guitar, and we're going to gate all the snares and other stuff that's not a kick out of that kick track. You're going to clean up both those tracks. You're going to bounce them down. Track 4. Again, we're going to show, you have to add on this one a gate. You're going to have to add a gate to the guitar track. You can see they're not on there. So you'll be adding the gate plugin and gating them to where you only hear the kicks, and over here the guitar gets cleaned up. This is a guitar track recorded again by another one of our instructors.
Let your light shine.
I still have vocals in there. Notice all that guitar amp noise that happens between the playing. We can use a gate to clean that up so that you only hear the guitar parts. Many guitarists will actually buy a gate pedal to clean up their audio signal path, so that way on stage this amplifier isn't going the whole time, because when you're using a lot of distortion, you're bringing up the gain so much that just any air or any movement on those strings will get picked up, and the gain is so much that you're going to get a very noisy guitar amp, and you guys get to hear that here. With the gate, you could clean up that track. Guitarists will quite often buy a gate pedal just to do exactly as what we're going to be doing here with an actual plugin. So that's your assignment. You're going to be doing those. Now, you'll notice there's a couple more tracks afterwards. This is the extra stuff. This is where I want you guys to start thinking out of the box, and how can you use a gate to do other stuff besides just cleaning up the audio. Well, if I let me solo this guy. All right, this is the sub kick. So if I've got a kick track, let's see, let's gate that kick track first of all. Again, it's dynamics, noise gate. I'm going to quickly, I always turn up my threshold to 0. These guys kind of all depends. There we go. I need to solo that. All right. So bring back threshold. You guys can see that's actually allowing a little bit of the kick, a little bit more release maybe. So I've got this set up more or less really quick as to where it's gating just the kick drum. Now, do you guys hear that? I'm going to blend these now. You hear that low-endy thump? That is nothing more than just a test oscillator. And I'm going to bypass this gate on the test oscillator to show you. I'll turn it up in pitch too. So that oscillator is putting out a tone. And the gate, this time, you can see we're using the side chain. I'm going to turn it back on. The gate will only open because it's following the kick only when the kick hits. So hit play. Now it's a high-pitched sound that's actually happening, but you can hear with the combination of the kick and this oscillator, we can actually create a whole new sound. And of course I want to bring it down in pitch. Right around that 56, it sounds really good. This is what we call a drop kick. A lot of dance music has this type of sound. They'll be like, okay, well, we like how the drums sound, but we want it to hit harder. We want it to really drop. This is real quick way of actually creating or adding to that kick sound. We combined the test tone of a very low oscillator being gated by the kick, giving you that added low end to the kick drum. In the instructions, I explain how to do this, how to set it up and everything. So you guys could go check this out. Understanding how the gate is imperative as to how to use the gate to create that same tone. Because remember the tack and the hold and release. I could change, make it be quicker, or to create a decay on that actual kick. So it gives you the capability of creating a whole new sound, and it's just understanding how to use the gate that can let you do that. I could change the whole time, I could change how it sweeps in, everything. Again, it's just using the gate to control, and by setting it up to listen to a different track, you can see here I set it up to be the kick track as to where it's listening to. That's what's triggering this gate, not its own tone, because otherwise it would just stay open constantly. Next track you can see on here, let me bring these guys back off. Let me bring this so I can see it a little better. It's off my screen right now. There we go. All right, this one right here, I'm going to go ahead and take off the gate, hit play, and listen to what it is. It's nothing more than just some string sounds. All right, so a lot of engineers will be asked quite often to do remixes and so forth, or change stuff. Here's how you could use a gate to change that. I can actually take the gate and use an external trigger. Right now what I use as a trigger track is nothing more than just a hi-hat sound that I set up MIDI wise, and I played it at 8th notes and 16th notes. That is gating that string sound. So when I hit play with the gate engaged and listening to that hi-hat pattern, this is what it sounds like. So imagine you could create a whole different version just by gating, let's say, something like a string sound. You could gate vocals. You could gate anything you wish by an external triggering. This is kind of like way back, if you remember the old school DJs. There's Grandmaster Flash was a DJ known for he would chop up the audio. He used his crossfader to trigger it on and off. So you could actually gate the audio to give it a different feel. If you're everything from hip hop to trance to techno to all different styles of music will use this kind of effect. And this is how they do it. They use a gate triggered from an external device again. This track happens to be a hi-hat track that I chose, but it could be anything. And you're able to gate the song, giving it that feel, a choppy feel. If you want to, well, I want it to be a little bit more smoother. You can see I can increase the release. If I want it to be fade in, all kinds of feels, and even I could sit here and change the gain reduction. So that exercise there is really to show you how much control you really have with the gate. It's doing more than just on and off. You could really create a whole envelope around whatever sound. So this is something that can be used from everything from sound designing to cleaning up tracks to just about anything. Just understanding the parameters will help you immensely, and you'll be able to do these things. I always want to make sure you guys learn the basic setups and rules, so that way, why not? You guys can break the rules, but understanding the rules, you need to know them before you break them. To break the rules is nothing more than just being creative, and hey, by you understanding what the parameters do, you know how to use that to your advantage and be able to change how something sounds. You heard these strings, completely different feel just by me gating them on and off that way. All right, let's I'm going to open up the mics. The gating assignment is that basic. Gates are a lot easier to understand than compression. There you really hear the difference because it's on or off, basically, allowing audio to pass through or not. So it's a lot more simpler concept. The fact that you could use it as a sound designing tool is where it starts getting a little bit more advanced, but you could see it's really not that hard. So any questions about the gating assignment? Not really seeing anything. Scrolling back through the chat window just to see. Nope. Okay, so no questions? Alright, so everybody got how to do the gating assignment and also the compressor assignment? Okay, great. Hopefully I was able to really enlighten you guys into truly understanding how the compressor can help you, as well as also a gate. And you'll see how these tools can really change a whole song. The gate concept is especially viable when it comes to drums. You saw how I was able to make that track only be the snare. Remember, whenever you record drums, you're going to get all that bleed through. So now imagine I have 10 different things, 10 different tracks. They all have bleed. If I gate them, I could clean up that drum kit and make it sound exactly as I wish. Otherwise, if I don't gate it, when I'm bringing up levels and doing compression on those snares, remember, everything else will get brought up, and you start getting a mismatch of timing differences between the mics because they're in different positions. You have a microphone that's picking up the snare, and at the same time it's picking up the hi-hat, which is a couple, let's say 3 feet away, 4 feet away. And then the microphone that's picking up the hi-hat at the same time, it's closer to the hi-hat, so there's a timing difference between the way the microphone's picking up the sound when you add all these microphones together. This will give you timing differences in the drums, and it ends up smearing the sound a little bit, is the easiest way of saying. If you want a really crisp drum kit, you want to separate each sound, get them nice and clean for you to be able to, really mix down and compress each individual instrument the way you want. You'll have to use gates. Gates on toms, gates on snare, gates on the kick drum. Probably every single time I've mixed, I will always throw a gate on those instruments. The hi-hats, a little harder to gate, but sometimes I will. Other times I allow all the high-end stuff, like the cymbals and so forth with the overheads, to not be gated and just gate only the individual lower frequency stuff, like the kick, the snare, the toms, all of that. You'll start getting used to how a gate can really help clean up your mix, because you no longer have to deal with noise on every single track. That when you add all these tracks together, that compounds the noise, makes it louder in the whole mix, and your whole mix becomes, we say, dirtier. It's muddier. It has a lot more stuff happening that we really want it to, and you lose your presence of a lot of instruments and so forth. But cleaning them all up brings out each instrument so that you can really hear it in the mix. All right.
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So as far as gating for like cymbals and crashes and stuff like that, essentially you could use the gate, but on the bandpass and just have it pick up the higher frequencies, right?
Yes, you could do that. So that way you have more control over it. You just want to make sure, again, that you get the full decay of each one of those cymbals and everything. So that's very helpful, actually, using that bandpass capability on the gate. A little bit more advanced, but yes, if you wanted to, you would kick it in. Here's where you turn it on, and you can see I could make it so that way it only reacts between 1K and 20K. The gate will only open up for those in that frequency range. A little bit more advanced. You'll learn a little bit more in depth later as you go through other classes, your mixed classes especially. You'll start learning more about that. Any other questions? The idea of using the gate as a sequencer. Yes, Thomas. I used to use it a lot. I would gate all kinds of stuff. I did a lot of remixes for different groups. I was the engineer for Third World, the reggae group, and in 2003, when we mixed down that album that ended up being nominated for a Grammy, we actually did some remixes of some of the songs, and I gated vocals, and I had a lot of fun doing stuff. And those songs, those remixes, got released in Europe, which was great. A lot of fun. I turned them in from reggae songs into dance songs that were actually really played by DJs in Europe. Any other questions?